Welcome to Rogers That Podcast. Your host for today's podcast
is me, Lily,
Jake,
and Katerina.
Today we have a great opportunity to interview Charles Coristine, the CEO of LesserEvil. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. We appreciate you joining us.
It's my pleasure.
So, part one is background and professional questions. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Sure. So I'm actually Canadian. Well, I'm American now, but I was born in Montreal and I grew up in Toronto. And then after I did my undergraduate, I got a job in Chicago, and I didn't know anyone in Chicago. I was really nervous to move there all by myself because I'd never even been there before. So I packed up all my stuff and I moved there in my car. I didn't have any furniture and I didn't have any friends, but it was really exciting. It felt like a big adventure. Anyways, I ended up absolutely loving Chicago. The people were so friendly. I ended up working there for 2 years, and then I got transferred to New York City, which was very nerve-wracking because I had just settled into Chicago, and I really liked it because the people were really friendly. And I was nervous that the people in New York were going to be as friendly as the people in Chicago. But after a couple of years of living in New York, I kind of started to settle in. I lived in the East Village for almost 10 years. I worked at Morgan Stanley. I was in finance. I ended up meeting someone who I had 2 kids with, and we ended up moving out to Westchester, to a town called Larchmont. And then when I was about 40, I ended up deciding to make a switch out of finance. And this is and we can talk about my next move was starting LesserEvil. And that made me move closer to Danbury because I was commuting from Westchester to Danbury. So now I live in a town called New Canaan, which is about 40 minutes away from Danbury.
Before you started working at LesserEvil, what other jobs did you have in your life?
I only really had one job. I was a bond trader. It was funny when I was a little kid. Well, not really a little kid, when I was a teenager. My dad worked in finance, and he made me read this book called Liar's Poker. And I found the book really exciting, and it spoke to me. And I kind of liked the fact that there was a lot of risk and there was a lot of activity, and the world was constantly changing and you were trying to figure it out. So I really wanted to be a bond trader. So when I graduated from university, that was my first job. I was an assistant. I was basically getting a lot of coffees and shining shoes and stuff. But back then you had to put in the time to kind of make everybody like you before they would give you a chance at trading. So I was a lackey for a couple of years, but I got a chance, and then I did that for almost 20 years.
How did you start LesserEvil?
All right, so I'm in my late 30s. I'm feeling a little stressed out. I'm not getting as much sleep as I should. I've been trading too much. The market's been kind of volatile. I'm starting to feel a little, tight in the chest. So I said, maybe it's a time to try something else. So at that time, I had started eating a little bit better, and I had started meditating. I know you guys have probably heard of that stuff, but for some reason, it really started working for me. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to try to do a job that's a little less stressful. So I was really into food, and a friend of a friend's dad had this company, or really it was a name. It was a company, but it was kind of on the decline. And it kind of spoke to me, and I said, well, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. So I decided to quit my job and try this. And one of the first things I did, which was really the genesis of LesserEvil, was I realized the only way I was going to be able to do something really different and really special that people were going to buy was to open up a factory. So after about 6 months of buying the name, I decided to open a factory, and I opened this 5,000 square foot factory. It was really small in factory terms here in Danbury, and I bought some equipment and I started making snacks. And because I owned my own factory, I was able to play around with a lot of different ingredients. And I started playing around with different oils like coconut oil. And nobody really had done that in snacks before. And people really actually kind of liked it. And so that was kind of the genesis of where I was going to go. They also really liked the fact that we did organic, and there weren't a lot of organic snacks. So between organic, Himalayan salt, and the non-seed oils, I kind of had a good recipe for success.
Well, I think this one's Himalayan pink salt.
Yeah, all our snacks are made with Himalayan pink salt. So we don't use any refined salts. So we think it's a little bit better than just regular salt.
Can you explain the name LesserEvil?
Yeah, so LesserEvil is a deep name because it represents a lot to me. But the way I think consumers should think about it is like, I don't want to say all snacks are evil because there's lots of good snacks, but we like to make evil snacks a little less evil, like the snacks that most kids like, like chips and popcorn and puffs and stuff like that. So instead of frying it, we air pop it and we use the better oils and we make it organic. So you don't feel as guilty eating it. So you can eat more snacks and feel good. And hopefully they make you feel a little bit better than eating regular snacks.
Can you describe your job as the CEO of LesserEvil? What does a typical day look like for a CEO?
Well, I get in pretty early, and the first thing I do is I go to the factory. I'm really into product quality for whatever reason. I found, and I think it's really good when you really focus on doing something really well, people notice. And I find that the more I concentrate on making sure that the popcorn is really popped really well and it has the right amount of oil and the right amount of salt, and if I'm really on top of it on a daily basis, the more popcorn I sell and the more snacks I sell. So I go into the factory usually, and I really like seeing the factory workers because the factory workers are really, kind of full of joy, and they're, it's pretty exciting for me to say hi to everyone in the morning. And then I test, snacks coming off the eight lines, and I'd say, okay, well, these are good or these need more expansion. And then I come in and I usually check my emails. On a course of a day-to-day basis, we were up to like 350 employees. So I used to do a lot of stuff. I used to do a lot of marketing and a lot of sales and a lot of strategy and stuff but now we have a lot of people that do those things. So now I tend to work on bigger picture things by making sure that everyone on my team is pulling in the right direction and doing the things that they love to do. And if they're getting slowed down by anyone, I am really now become kind of the remover of obstacles. So I just want to make my team basically pull in the right direction and make sure that they're having fun in what they're doing and that they're doing it as effectively as they can. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
What qualities do you think makes a good leader?
My leadership has changed over the time. I used to be like a go-getter, and I used to be like, okay, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this. I think now that we really hire only for attitude, I've got a lot of really positive people that are already go-getters themselves. So I'm realizing the culture is probably the most important thing, and making sure people really have fun when they go to work. And probably the most important thing that I've learned is empathy and becoming a really good listener, because people have problems, every day. We all have problems. God knows I have a lot of problems. And if they can come in and they can feel like this place is a safe place and that I'm going to listen and I'm going to help them, it makes people happy when they're at work. And if they're happy when they're at work, they actually end up doing a really good job. So I think empathy is probably the thing that I would say the most now.
Why did you choose Danbury as the location for LesserEvil?
That was a really lucky choice. So I obviously lived in Larchmont way back when, and I wanted to find a place where I could open up the business that was, not too far of a drive. And Norwalk and White Plains were a little more expensive. The real estate was a little more expensive. Danbury, the real estate was a little bit cheaper. So at first it was because of cost, because I obviously it was my money and I didn't have a lot of it to do this. So I was concerned how much the factory was going to cost to rent. But it actually ended up being a really, really good decision, because the labor pool in Danbury has been absolutely incredible. There's so many people here, so many great people here that do an amazing job, that it's really become the secret of our success. I think if I had started in White Plains or Norwalk, I wouldn't have been, this is as successful as I am today.
What type of jobs are available at LesserEvil?
Wow. We do almost everything in house now. So when we design like advertisements and billboards and all that stuff, we do that. Post all our stuff on our own stuff on social media. So we do a lot of designs. We've got a really big marketing team. Um, we have a fairly big finance team. We have a big logistics team. We do all our own freight all over the country. So we've got to manage a lot of trucks and stuff like that. We have analysts that look at our production records and see if we're producing efficiently. We have transportation, we have warehousing, we have operations, we have factory. We've got pretty much everything that you can think of. There's a lot. We have a lot of jobs, and we're always looking for good people.
That's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of different.
LesserEvil focuses on healthy and organic snacks. Why is that so important to you and the company?
I think my purpose or the company's purpose is to provide quality food at inexpensive prices so people can afford to eat better. It's a mission that really resonates with me, especially as inflation has continued to, increase. And I think there are a lot of people that are struggling to put healthy food on the table. So I think it's a really big part. Like a lot of our competition has taken prices, let's say in popcorn and pops up, somewhere like 25% over the last 2 to 3 years. And we've only increased our prices about 7%. So now we're at a point where we're providing organic, better for you foods or snacks at prices that are cheaper than our competitors. And I think that's really cool.
How do you come up with new snack ideas, and have you ever had a snack idea that didn't work out?
Oh, so I think probably one of the most important lessons that I can teach you guys is that failure is part of the roadmap to success, and that you have to fail a lot of times. And the best way to do it is you fail and you make a note to yourself, what did I learn this time? And then you just keep tweaking. And hopefully along the way, you don't have any really big failures. You fail really quickly. So I launched a lot of snacks at the beginning. Like I probably launched 10 different kinds of snacks, like veggie sticks and super bites and potato chips and all these different things. And some of them didn't work. And I didn't double down on them. I would be like, ooh, I don't know if that's going to work. And I would basically discontinue that. And I would say, okay, I learned this and I'm going to start another snack and I'm going to apply everything I learned and do that. And after a bunch of times, I started to figure out what was working and wasn't working. And I built on my successes and just learned from my failures.
How do you create all the product names and design all the amazing artwork for the bag?
You know what? It's a really creative process, and there's just a lot of spitballing. We have, typically because we manufacture everything ourselves, we kind of know what we can make and what we can't make. So I kind of so a lot of the new snacks are extruded, so I know what I can make on my extruders. So I used to make snacks that were probably too healthy. Like I would make them out of quinoa and black bean and stuff like that. And kids were like, this tastes like a 6 out of 10. It may be really healthy, but I really like really tasty stuff. So then I started to realize, okay, well, I got to make it really tasty and healthier. So I started, doing more mainstream stuff like Spaceballs, and we're going to launch a Cheeto, and we're going to launch like a Sun Chip, and we're going to launch pretzels. And so I want to launch all the stuff that kids like, because moms buy a lot of our snacks for kids. So I kind of think of like, what are fun names and fun things that kids are going to eat a lot of? And so that's kind of the lens at which I look at what we do in terms of innovation.
What is the biggest challenge of your job?
Oh, wow. You know what? The biggest challenge is some people are going to be like, roll their eyes, but we're growing so fast that we're having problems keeping up with growth because we don't have enough warehousing. Unfortunately, in Danbury, because it's on the East Coast and it has a kind of limited infrastructure, there aren't a lot of big buildings, brand new big buildings. So we've got like this antiquated warehousing where we got 5 different warehouses and we've got trucks driving because the biggest warehouses we can get are 50,000-60,000 square feet. So now we got trucks driving around everywhere. A lot of our supply chain is somewhat immature, so we use like organic avocado oil. There's not a ton of organic avocado oil, and now Costco wants to us to manufacture all these things, and we got to find a lot of avocado. So we got to find a lot of different raw materials. We got to find a place to put all these raw materials. We got to find a place to put all the snacks that we make, and then figure out a way to ship it all and make it all. So we're like opening factories, opening warehouses, to having trucks show up and they're late, and it's like constant chaos, and it's pretty exciting, but it's a lot to manage. But you just got to look at it and say, okay, I'm not going to take myself too seriously. I'm just going to hang on for the ride and see where it takes me. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
What's one crazy thing?
What is the most rewarding part of your job?
Okay, this is a really good question. Because like when we first started, we used to hire people. When we hired people, we'd be like, oh, what do you do really well? And we would get people that, yeah, they may be good with adding numbers or whatever, but they might have a bad attitude. And even if you're really good at adding numbers and you have a bad attitude, it's not so good for everybody else that works in the company. So then all of a sudden we were like, we can teach people how to be better at adding numbers, but we can't teach people how to be better at being awesome. So we started hiring just people for awesomeness or attitude. So we only really hire awesome people now. And because we hire awesome people, we can take awesome people from the factory and we can move them all over the place. And some of these awesome people didn't even finish high school and they're still awesome and they just never really got a chance. So we bring them and we move them all over the company. So we have awesome people that didn't finish high school that are working in logistics and working in finance and working in warehouse. And it's really cool to see these people that didn't get a chance, to see them really grow and shine, and now they're like, a lot of these people didn't even speak English and they're taking English classes and they're speaking and they're flourishing. So we've built this really nice dynamic that everyone's really proud of.
Okay, this is part 3 and it's middle school questions.
Uh-oh.
What was middle school like for you, and what are your favorite middle school memories?
I think I was easier when I grew up because life was pretty carefree. This is going back a while ago, and I was pretty carefree. I used to come home, and this is a Canadian thing, but I used to be really excited to play street hockey. And I would come home at like 3:00 and I would play street hockey till like 6:00 until my mom basically came and grabbed me by my hair and pulled me in for dinner.
What was your favorite snack when you were a kid?
My mom used to love making me Triscuits with cheese, and I always liked that. And funny enough, and I loved cream and mushroom soup. I love mac and cheese. I love potato chips, and I like dry roasted peanuts. So those are kind of like my favorites.
When you were in middle school, what did you want to be when you grew up?
You would think growing up in Toronto I would have been a Blue Jays fan, and now I'm a Blue Jays fan. But back then I used to go to Maine every summer, and the Red Sox were like the big thing. And I used to love the Red Sox, and I used to play baseball, and I was a second baseman, and I always dreamed that I was going to be a second baseman for the Boston Red Sox. Don't tell anyone.
What is your favorite flavor of LesserEvil popcorn?
Himalayan Gold popcorn. And it goes around. Like I used to like Himalayan Pink, but you got to remember I eat a lot of popcorn. So sometimes I get even tired of my own stuff, but don't tell anyone that.
Well, we're kind of posting this.
I guess people are going to find out then.
Oh, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Is there a job where you get paid to eat popcorn?
Yes. We have product quality technicians that's all they do is like test popcorn.
We're gonna need those jobs.
How many flavors there?
Sorry, say that question one more time.
How many flavors of popcorn is there?
I'm gonna guess 7 or 8.
Wow.
If you could only eat one lesser evil snack for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
I would say right now we've gotten really good at making Spaceballs. We changed the seasoning on the Spaceballs to this really cheesy, real cheese seasoning, and we're making them super crunchy these days. So I'm eating a ton of Spaceballs. So right now I'd have to say Spaceballs.
I just had those. I had those the other day. What are the coolest thing about running a snack company?
So one of the things I really like doing is like picking the gurus and and what they like and what they don't like. I like designing the packaging. Like we design all the packaging in house. So we pick a guru. What does he like? What does she like? And we write a guru profile. And then I love writing the copy, the stuff that's on the back of the bag. And I'll spend hours and hours and hours. So it's called copywriting. And it took me a long time to get good at it. I'm still not good at it, but it's one of my favorite things to do.
Popcorn in a bowl or straight from the bag?
In a bowl, for sure.
Salty or spicy?
Spicy.
Sweet or
Actually,
cheesy?
I like both. I like salty and spicy.
Would you rather sweet or would you rather cheesy?
Cheesy.
Agreed. Moonions or Spaceballs?
Spaceballs. I think the sweet Moonions are too sweet for me. I think we need to make them less sweet.
Power curls or paleo cups?
I love the Power Curls for some reason. I think they're amazing.
Pink Himalayan salt or white cheddar popcorn?
Well, our current white cheddar flavor is made with the vegan seasoning. And not that I have it, but I just don't think it's cheesy enough. So I'm going to say Himalayan pink salt.
Make it more cheesy.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should.
Well, that's what we've been doing. We've been taking, because there's this move to real food again, and people aren't necessarily all that excited about, plant-based as much as they used to. We've been moving all our cheese seasonings from plant-based seasonings to full-on real cheese cheddar seasonings that are organic, and it makes a big difference.
I will buy anything that's cheesy. Ask Jake. I come to school with cheese puffs, like
A lot of cheese.
a lot of cheese.
You can come to school with this whole.
I won't come to bag. I won't come to school with this.
What advice would you give to kids who want to start their own business one day?
I would say it's definitely very possible. You need to find really, really good people to work with. You need to expect that it's going to take a long time. I remember when I first started, everyone thought that you could build a successful business in 3 to 5 years, and it took us probably closer to 10 years to build it. So it takes a long time, and you got to focus on the fundamentals, and you got to be smart with your money, and you got to make good decisions. Don't spend a ton of money on marketing until you have really good distribution, because a lot of people do that. So just build your business slowly and do things the right way, and you're going to be really successful, and learn from your mistakes.
We want to thank you for joining us on our podcast today to tell us a little bit about yourself and LesserEvil.
No, you're so welcome.
Thank you for tuning in for another great episode of Rogers At. See you next time. Bye.
You guys are awesome. Nice meeting you guys.
You
Thanks,
too.
Jamie. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.